Hey everyone, it's Mike here, and this is episode number 3 of my Q&A. All right, so I'm asking, you guys are giving me a lot of questions lately, and I really appreciate them. I'll try to get to all of them as fast as I, humanly, possibly can, right? The thing is that, I'm out there hustling too, just like with you guys, right? I'm out there trying to find things at garage sales, flea markets, wherever I can, and, we're getting to this point in time where it's going to be the slower months of the season, so really, really pay attention to that and understand that too, that you've got to get this pipeline of cash going, and by doing so, that sometimes you just got to unleash products for a lower margin than you would throughout the year, right? That fresh money coming through every week is so important to keep your business going and really to keep you going, right? Pay your bills, support your family, buy Cheerios, whatever it takes, right? So let's get in this video, guys, right now.
Is the guide for social media available to us outside the group? Working on Facebook page and web page, but not quite getting how to make it all work to sell more, says Closeout.
Thanks so much for taking the time to ask us this question here. As for the social media guide that you're referring to, this was written by a buddy of mine named Jay, and Jay's an admin of the Resellers Roundtable. He's also a member of PICK4PROFIT, and the reselling guide is really awesome. It's not a how-to, it's not a step-by-step. It breaks down everything you need to know about social media, pretty much, right? In a really, really transparent and it's an awesome read. It really is. So if you're interested in looking at that, he also has his own Facebook group for social media that you can easily find in the Resellers Roundtable Facebook group. I also put a link up to his guide, his e-guide, his mini book there on my website, PICK4PROFIT.com/tools. So you can go over there and check it out. And that's the big thing, guys. He gave away a lot of these copies inside the group, so that's one of the added bonuses of being in the Resellers Roundtable group is there's a lot of value and ROI that goes into the group. So if you're not a member there, definitely go ahead and check it out. But I appreciate you commenting there. Close out.
Lady Dog says, "Hi Mike, on your auctions selling thrift store clothing like polo shirts and Brooks Brothers and Tommy Hilfiger and others, what do you start your 3-day auctions at price-wise? And what do you put for shipping? I noticed on a few of your vids you were getting $25 to $35 per shirt, but you didn't say your starting price point. Thanks."
All right, that's a very good question, Deputy Dog 164. This whole theory and system for selling items on eBay, especially clothing on auction, it's difficult, okay? It can be done easily. It's all about price points. It's all about understanding, where to start, where are the price points, where are people buying these shirts for, how much are they paying for it. So you got to do your homework. You got to look at the active listings and also look at the completed. Here's my thought process with that. Look at the completed and find your item, okay? Did that seller charge shipping? Was it free shipping? How did that work on the auction, right? So for me, when I'm starting these clothing items, they're all brand names, or I think they're unique a little bit. They're a little bit rare. I want people to bid on them. I want 2 or 3 people bidding on these, because what you're going to find is if you throw out a standard Ralph Lauren shirt for $20 with free shipping, you might get 1 bid. You might not get any bids. Honestly, guys, it's flooded over there with some of this clothing. But it just depends. And, you could throw that same shirt up there for $4.99 with free shipping and 4 people bid on it. So you got to take a little bit of risk. But I think, to narrow down that risk, you got to price your item accordingly. So if you say, okay, if I only get 1 bid on it, then that's the bid. And you're going to be happy with that result, right? So I'm not starting these things at, $39.99. For my previous videos, a lot of times if you look back at the videos, you'll see that there's just 1 bid, right? All my stuff I do on auction for clothing is free shipping, all right? So I just put it on a price that I wanted, I felt comfortable with, and majority of the time, 80% of the items sell through, okay? But that's because I've done research. But you can do it the other way around, too. You can do, let's say $5.99 a Ralph Lauren shirt plus $7.95 shipping, right? Obviously, that you have to ship that first class, but you can bump it the priority, get it to that buyer quicker. Right? It's just to find what's right for you and get that going, okay? Don't be afraid. Don't wait and say, oh, I waited to hear your answer on this. I'm like, no, start doing it today. Do it tomorrow. Get these items listed and put the price points on there, right? So if you're buying these shirts like I'm getting them for $1 or $2, even if you sell them at $15, $16 within 3 days or 5 days or 7 days, you're moving money. That's the key. Really move that money. But remember, don't overprice your items on auction. I mean, you could try that. Definitely. You see items that go through the pipeline where it's gotten to the highest price, even above buy it nows. So try different things. Just remember, now with the whole change in the eBay system with the auctions for the 3-day auctions, it's $1, but it's not a big deal, right? you get charged $1 if it doesn't sell. So make sure you're doing your homework. Make sure you're getting the right price points involved. Look at it with the active. See what's going on. Find times of the day when you're listing these where the prime times. Sundays have always done well for me. It could be Sunday from 9 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. Right? It's just testing the market. I've sold items at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, right? Because there's people still looking at Sunday night, that late Sunday night. They're up late. So just find what's right with you and test it, and then keep track of your progress with all that. Keep track and say, okay, yeah, last Sunday I rocked it, right? I had 25 auctions ending. I sold 12, but I also sold 10 items in my store, right? So build your own system is really my best advice with that.
Funny Makes Life Sunny is saying, I find myself often buying clothing items and not making as much profit as I think. For example, I'd buy a Ralph Lauren dress shirt for $5 and mark it at $12.95 shipped. After fees and shipping cost, usually around $3.50 for a dress shirt, I'm left with less than $5 profit. I just started and only have 10 feedback so far. Would it be better to go for a higher price and free shipping or a lower price and charge shipping? For example, $10.95 plus $4 shipping or $14.95 plus free shipping.
All right, yeah, great question here. Funny Makes Life Sunny. I kind of discussed this in the last one here from the last comment, but yeah, it just depends. If you're feeling like I am and you've got these items and you're paying $3 for a dress shirt and you're selling for 15 or 20, there's still profit there. There's definitely profit there, right? Turn it around, change it up. Maybe free shipping one week. Maybe next week it's a set price with the shipping. Just test it. See which one works actually better for you, right? Remember, price points are super key, but definitely test that theory, right? Okay, free shipping, or you've got a set price for the shipping. People are doing this either way and they're winning, right? So I think it all boils down to the brand name for the clothing. Is it attractive? Are people looking for that? If it's something that nobody's looking for, obviously it's not going to work, right? But my biggest thing is we go out there, we find these items, we pick these brands, we pick these items, whatever we're picking, right? We believe in it, we see there's value in it, and you don't want to get stuck in a rut where you're picking up stuff to make $1 or $2 or losing money. You should never lose money at an auction, honestly, right? I mean, if you are, you've taken a risk, and you're saying, okay, I was hoping to get people involved to bid it up, but at the end of the day, I had to pay $10 in my pocket to ship it to the customer, and I got charged eBay fees, PayPal fees, blah, blah, blah. It was a loss. It was a waste of time. So, I think the best thing to do is to set up your price points. Me personally, if you want my advice, I would go with the $14.95 with free shipping. That's just me, all right? And I would let it roll that way. But definitely try it either way. Like I said, I'm only talking from my experience. I am not an expert. I'm experienced with this. But either way, it truly does work. You just got to find out which one works for you.
MoneyQ33 asks, do you include measurements?
All right, here's a great question. From MoneyQ33N101. Do you include measurements? Okay, I'm assuming you're talking about measurements for clothing, right? Yeah, definitely must. You got to do it, right? You do the pit to pit, the top to bottom. If you're doing blazers, yeah, that's a key thing with blazers, guys. If you don't do these with blazers or items or custom fit items, you're going to get returns. You're going to get returns regardless, because most people these days aren't even looking at the measurements. But some people are, because they're going, hey, I'm shopping online for this shirt. I want to make sure it fits. And everybody's bodies are different. That's why it's important to put the size measurements and everything. Like a large Ralph Lauren polo shirt is different than a large Brooks Brothers shirt in terms of dimensional, right? And some people want a tight fit. Some people want a loose fit. Same with T-shirts. Some guys, they're freaking the muscle heads. They want the freaking shirts, and just look at my pipes, right? So they know that their chest across is like 16 and they're pit to pit, right? But if it's a 20, it's gonna be too baggy on them. So there are shoppers out there looking at that. But I think just by taking that extra step, doesn't take a lot of time. Measure these items out, list them, and that's the best you can do, right? Also describe all the flaws. Now if you're talking about other items, yeah, definitely. If you're talking about a remote control or a lamp, include measurements in everything. If the item is, obviously if it's a video game, there's no need to include a measurement with a video game. But if it's a light or a lamp or a whatever it is, a trinket, a bottle, include the measurement. Yeah, this is a 6-inch tall. Same with action figures, toys. Include the measurement. But if it's stuff that really doesn't require a measurement, like video games or VHS tapes or books too, if you get a big coffee table book, let people know that, because people take photographs different ways, and sometimes you can see it too on eBay or Amazon. You look at it and go, well, I imagine that was pretty small, but then you get it and it's huge, or vice versa, right? So I think measurements are key as a seller to inform the buyer. And if the buyer, If the buyer neglects it and they look at it and say, well, this doesn't fit me, and you put the measurements there, well, I mean, who's at fault there? You gave them everything they needed. They were too lazy to look it up, and they were just like, oh, it doesn't work, doesn't fit, or whatever it is. And you get it's part of the business. You got to deal with the returns, but the goal is to eliminate the returns by giving the buyers all the information in your listing. So hopefully that answered your question, bud.
Hi, Mike. Newbie here. Was wondering if you ever did these shelf pulls or closeout auctions or the pallet bulk buys. Any insight into this would be greatly appreciated.
All right, this is a good question from Nestle Route. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Do I ever do shelf pulls or auctions of the pallets in bulk? Yeah, I mean, I've done that in the past. Here's my biggest thing with that. If you're getting this stuff from like closeouts or store returns, you're going to get a lot of junk. You're going to get a lot of stuff that it might be broken. It might not be sellable for Amazon or eBay. But you can definitely try to move some of that stuff via eBay, that stuff that's maybe not, it's missing a cord or whatever it is. There's opportunity. It's all about the price points, understanding what you're looking at. So if you're at, an auction, you're looking at a pallet full of, let's just take, for example, Walmart pools, right, and swim and all this stuff and Nerf and, all their summer stuff. What are you looking at? You got to look at it and say, okay, that's at that price. I can sell at that price. But it's the same thing when you go to Goodwill, right? If you go to Goodwill, or you'll see that if your Goodwill has that, they're getting the Target returns, they're getting the Walmart returns, and from my experience, a lot of those it's garbage. Honestly, it's not sellable. All right, the package is destroyed, pieces are missing, so you're going to have to do a lot of work when you're finding these shelf pulls, especially if it's for like liquidations on damaged goods or just the fact that they're hey, we got a whole pallet of these things here. Take a look at them. I think condition's key. That's the biggest thing when you're looking at these opportunities. Are these brand new? If they're not, and they're all these purifiers, well, those all could be returns because they were broken or they were recalled. So you gotta, you gotta do a little bit of homework with this. But I think it's, I definitely think there's opportunity there. I think there's opportunity, again, if you're looking at it and saying this seems to be all in good condition. It's a fair price. I can flip it. But it's a lot of work. You got to muscle that around. You're going to have some vehicle to move that stuff. You're going to have some space to store that stuff, whether it's maybe you have a warehouse or maybe it's your garage, right? But just from overall my experience, I try to stay away from those, honestly, just because I've done those over the years. It's, I went from doing storage auctions to getting into that stuff, and there was money in it for sure, but there was a lot of stuff that I had to get rid of, right? I couldn't sell online, and that was really the goal, was to sell it online. But here's an example of what you could do if you get this stuff. Definitely sell them local. I mean, there's people in my local Facebook group right now just killing it, crushing it with this stuff, right? But, does she get returns? Oh, yeah, you'll hear about it in the Facebook group. Yeah, this person ripped me off, right? So if you're selling this stuff locally or even online, offer returns, right? And don't get frustrated when you get somebody that says it doesn't work, because if you're not testing it, especially if you're not testing it, how do you know they're not telling the truth, right? But, and that goes back to this, flea markets. You can do well with this stuff at flea markets. I mean, there was a lady back in Chicago when I was doing my flea markets. She was freaking had, oh my God. Hers was the busiest booth of the flea market. Just selling Craftsman, all these tools, everything people needed, vacuum cleaners. And, she'd sell a bunch. She'd have a bunch of money in her pocket. But by that next weekend, 10, 20 people kept coming back. Returns, this is garbage. But she had no problem with that. She's like, here's the money. Part of doing business. So there's a lot of money coming in, but there's a lot of money going out. And it's all about understanding what you're looking at, what you're buying, right? And make sure that the biggest, keyest thing is name brand. You got to look for the name brand. People associate with name brand when you're seeing this stuff. So I wouldn't really rule it out of your business if you're new. Shoot, I mean, you might be in an area where this stuff's going for nothing and you can kill it. But for me personally, it's not a good fit right now for my business. And I'm right down the road from a guy that does this, and I cherry pick from his stuff from time to time. He wants to sell me pallets and truckloads of stuff, and I just can't, because there's a lot of risk there. There's a lot of stuff that I see just from him in his personal business is there's damage, and he's eating the cost of some of this stuff. And for every if there's 1,000 pieces there, it seemed like for my scenario with what this guy's got, there's maybe 100 that are working. The other 900 are garbage, right? You're gonna have to sell them to somebody and let somebody else figure it out. But look into it. Look into any opportunity for reselling, whether it's cars, homes, boats, RVs, tires. Look at anything, everything. Look at the thrift stores. Look at the flea markets, garage sales. Everything's a possibility. So, thanks for asking that question. Super appreciate it. Guys, I appreciate all these doing these Q&As. I have fun doing this, and hopefully you guys are learning something. And hearing my points of view and how I'm answering these questions. And by no means is this the, I'm an expert and everything I'm saying is the Bible. That's not the case, right? I'm just giving you my experience with all this, and but I'm happy to ask any questions. You can go to Twitter, you can go to Facebook, you can go to anywhere you can find me. There's links all below, and just ask me a question, and I'll get to it and answer it on the show for sure. Again, guys, check out the Resellers Roundtable Facebook group. It's a completely free Facebook group. It's growing every day. There's a lot of posts going on there, a lot of really positive vibes, and it's just an awesome place if you're a reseller, whether you're brand new or you're experienced. I think you're going to find that there's information there that's beneficial to you for sure. But other than that, guys, check out my website, PICK4PROFIT.com. I got a lot of cool stuff going on out there, a lot of posts, a lot of videos that I don't have on YouTube here, and also I've got some podcasts I just started flowing out there. Those are on there as well. Also, there's information there if you're looking to get into more of the inner workings of Pick for Profit. That's a whole other thing there, but I'll leave it up to you. You can go check it out and go from there. But hey, guys, really appreciate you watching. Until next time, I'm out of here. Peace.